Drones, we started using them because we didn't have weapons. So we survive as best as we can, That's how the bow and arrow, the first firearms, were invented. This was all dictated by the battlefields. If we use our brains, then we think very effectively. We are currently writing a new doctrine of war, and whichever country adopts what we have, it will at least definitely not lose, and perhaps even win that war.
This year, 2025, is proving to be one of the toughest in Ukraine's struggle to hold on in the face of Russian aggression. As hopes for a quick negotiated peace have faded, Ukraine has understood that the only way to stop the war is by stopping Russia's advance on the battlefield. But that battlefield is changing and transforming in front of our eyes. Drones saturating the sky have made the experience for infantrymen more and more deadly and more miserable than ever. And Ukraine understands that it must not only adapt and transform, but do everything it can to protect each and every one of its lives. We're here today in Donetsk Oblast to speak to one of the commanders that better than any represents that change. Kyrylo Veres, commander of the K2 Strike Drone Regiment. This was recorded in Ukrainian, so once again you have either the option of listening in Ukrainian with English subtitles or using an AI dubbed version.
I wanted to ask about the K2 transformation, because even among the foreign audience, which I think is seeing such an interview with you for the first time, many are familiar with K2 through some very high-quality viral videos that were released back in 2023 and 2024. But this was back when K2 was a mechanized battalion, and your work looked differently, with infantry, tanks, artillery. It was all documented well. The high performance of the unit was shown. But what was K2 then, and what is it now?
Well, look, previously K2 was an infantry unit, operating in two sectors of the front and doing its work well and efficiently. That happened for two reasons. We knew the area well, and we have such an infantry that, though not strictly never steps back, is tasked to stand firm, dig in and hold the line. Now it's a complete transformation, a completely different job. Previously, I hoped for a unit that would help us and strengthen us. Not just to join in somewhere for one or two operations, but stand right there with us shoulder to shoulder. For example, when I was in charge of the infantry, we had our own drones, but we could use help. But there were no such units for many reasons. They were somewhere else, but we didn't have any. Now we stepped in to do it and help not just one brigade or one battalion, not across 3 kilometers, but a 100-kilometer sector, maybe even more. We are increasing this effort. As for now, we have just arrived. We have been in combat, and it's no secret, only since March, since the end of March. Properly speaking, in military terms, we're still at the coordination stage. We haven't even fully arranged the crews yet. That said, we're increasing our efforts every day, and we already take out roughly 200 enemy soldiers every month. And of course, I'm not responsible for the zero line, and my emotional state has become much better. Well, I'm a human being. After all, I'm not only a unit commander. Sometime in the evening or at night, I'm still a human being. I burn out too, and so does my personnel. They see whether our soldiers get wounded or not, whether we have losses or not, and what the reasons are for that. So the moral component has improved. But we worked hard to get here. It wasn't handed to us. We had been in the infantry since 2014. As for the battalion, it was an infantry battalion in 2022, 2023, 2024. And the infantry battalion still exists. It's a matter of principle for us. There's the K2 regiment and there's the K2 battalion. We're making every effort to unite everyone into a single unit. Every day I remember that I have my people there in the infantry and I need to take them out. But due to the lack of forces and resources along the front line, they still have to perform tasks as an infantry battalion.
Actually, I wanted to raise this question about the moral component. Because you were known as an infantry commander who cared about his people, maybe more than anyone else.
I really tried to, I don't know if I succeeded, but I tried to maybe more openly than others.
Why did a person who was so good at doing that particular job move to a job where they no longer have to do this?
Wait, who said I no longer have to do it? Now my personnel is often 2 or 1.5 kilometers from the front line.
I mean, to be responsible for the front line itself.
Well, look, there I could do my job with 20 to 30% efficiency given the circumstances and the emotional state. But I said that we are able to do much more, just give us the opportunity. We will find people. The most important thing is people. They asked me, how would you form a regiment? Where would you get the people from? There's no way for the state right now to just give you 2,000 people. Giving me 2,000 people would mean taking them away from other brigades, to which we said that we would find personnel on our own, mostly without taking people away from others, without doing it at the expense of other units. We do our own recruiting. 70% of our personnel are guys who went IWOL earlier. They weren't in the armed forces anymore. These people were almost like civilians. They came to us and work well now. I think the command simply saw that we could do more and better. At that time, I wasn't ready to become a brigade commander, wasn't ready to be a commander of an infantry brigade. I'm not ready to lead an infantry brigade now either.
Why exactly?
I won't be able to pull through emotionally. I know my strengths and my capabilities. I'm not ready and I can't, and maybe I don't want to, but mainly I'm not ready. I can't be responsible for 7,000 infantrymen.
But someone has to.
Someone has to, and some can manage it.
These regiments and brigades of purely unmanned systems are very powerful and independent of Western weapons supplies.
In general, they have nothing Western about them. I mean, I think we have 2 HIMARS, but I took them from my infantry brigade.
Do they belong to you?
To the state. They were in my infantry battalion. We are not dependent on anything. All our systems are produced in Ukraine, 95%.
Do you think that means it would be possible to fight for a long time without the United States, for example? At least the dependence on shells won't be as acute anymore.
Would Ukraine be able to keep fighting without help? No, it can't. First of all, it's not just our problem. Yes, it is us who were attacked, but they will be attacked next. Now they all thrive on our blood, not right now, maybe in 20 years, in 100. I've heard stories that Western countries make forecasts 50 to 60 years into the future, and they understand that this awaits them. Now, if we weren't there, the enemy could have moved on forward and forward if they wanted to. It's not certain that they would want to, but if they did, almost no one would have been able to stop them. Whatever it is, it's in our blood to fight Russia, and that's how it will be.
And then there's the skill to wage a drone war.
Well, look, regarding drones, we started using them because we didn't have weapons. So we survive as best as we can. You know, that's how the bow and arrow, the first firearms were invented. This was all dictated by the battlefields. I don't think I'm sure we won't be able to make it without help. We won't be able to win. And we won't even be able to stand. I'm not even talking about winning, I'm not saying such phrases. We will not be able to stand without the help of the whole world. But our unit specifically doesn't receive any critical equipment. And regarding the funding, it's better to ask our leadership. I don't always know where these drones come from and at whose expense. This is fundamentally important. But everything that our military unit and I, as its commander, I buy with the money that the state gives me. I don't know whose money this is. If this is help of others, then it's even better.
I wanted to ask about the unmanned ground vehicles, especially the evacuation. Now, it seems to me you are promoting this evacuation topic more than anyone else.
I'm pushing, and I'll keep pushing it probably for another month and a half or 2.
Why?
Well, first of all, if I see a goal, There are no obstacles for me, in a good way. I think it helps. This is the first thing. We have proven with our unit that this is effective and beneficial. And for me, not everything is about the K2 drone regiment. For me, all of Ukraine matters. No one can say I've turned down a request for help from fellow brigade commanders. If it's possible, even with just a 5% chance, we go for it, even if we risk losing all our equipment. But I still won't risk losing my people, and they won't die for nothing. That's why I promote it very strongly, because this is effective. And I want to convey this message to brigade commanders so that they adopt it as well. On a positive note, in the last week, about 3 brigade commanders approached me personally about this. In total, it was about 5 to 6 brigades, elite brigades. It was a great honor for me when they called me and said, please help or consult us. Because they haven't adopted this yet, but they want to do it. During this month, since the beginning of the month, our unit has evacuated 6 wounded from the battlefield. 5 of them wouldn't have been able to get out on their own. Our neighboring unit, which also carries out evacuations and is positioned on the front edge, so we evacuated 6 people. And according to my information, they evacuated 7. That's just what I know of. This is just along the 10-kilometer sector of the front line. 13 people evacuated in 25 days.
Are you convinced that this is the future?
Well, if that's what I do, 13 people in 25 days who needed to be evacuated, and they were evacuated. On the 10-kilometer sector, 100 kilometers equals 100 people, and on 1,000 kilometers it can be up to 3,000 people a month. Among them, about 30% will eventually return to service. But in terms of morale, if these guys end up dying, let's say 100 people, then 200 people will go AWOL. At least 200 will go AWOL. Instead, they'll hold their ground and won't budge. So what are we even talking about? You see the development of the unmanned ground vehicles like this, and I see it as a concept for a great future. I see it as something that raises the morale and psychological state, increases the endurance of the infantry and their ability to conduct combat, because no one wants to die. If someone is injured, they want to get out. That way people don't leave the battlefield and don't run away from their brigades. Let's say about 5% of soldiers leave their positions because they are afraid they will not be evacuated. Let's imagine what this number looks like in a year on the scale of the whole country. That's thousands of people. Did I explain it all right? Thousands of people. Here is how 5% influences everyone else. So of course I'll advocate for it, because I don't want us to lose. I don't want 3 houses to be occupied in 2 days. My family had 3 estates seized by Russians. My parents, grandparents, and my personal home was seized. I don't want that to happen again. So, of course, I'll advocate for it. I will push for it as long as I have the strength. But here is a big positive. I don't need to push too hard, because the command is very supportive. They push me and I push further. It's no secret. You wouldn't believe it, but in terms of unmanned ground forces, it's happening at a pretty high level. I'm not bragging, but the means are there and everything is there. And I'll even say more so that everyone knows. The state provides drones to us. Just knock and they will open.
None of what we do here at the Kyiv Independent would be possible without our amazing community of members. If you want to join us to support independent journalism and let us keep coming to the front line to bring you the battlefield like we're doing here, join us by clicking the link in the description below. Thank you.
And speaking of drone warfare in general, how has it changed over the last year? Because survivability on the battlefield is decreasing right now.
Of drones or people?
People.
People are affected a lot. Well, because the enemy is developing, let's be honest about it. We kill a lot more of the enemy, but in a month the enemy adapts, learns how to do it as well, and we end up having more and more losses. Our biggest problem is that we don't learn from other people's mistakes, but when we ourselves lose people, and only then we learn. Learn. And for that, you don't have to go far. You can simply call any other brigade and ask the commander. Brigade commanders are humans too. I called many brigade commanders and consulted with them. One guy I once asked for advice, he advised me for 2 days. He was from a quite famous unit, Asgard. And when I arrived for a meeting with the commander-in-chief, I saw that the guy was a sergeant. A sergeant consulted a major for 2 days. He had 20 people. I had 1,000 people. I say, so what? Excellent. And I called him a third and fourth time. I don't see any shame in this. It's shameful to be stupid. That's shameful.
In terms of the enemy's development, would it be correct to say that there is now parity with the enemy? Or something close to parity?
No, I would even say that we are losing in some areas. If I'm wrong, that's great. But I believe that the enemy is at our level in some areas. In terms of fiber optic drones, there is parity. The number of drones the enemy launches per day in our sector is enormous. I'll explain how I know this. Because our unit not only has UGV and strike assets, but we also have a pretty good EW unit. Most people don't know this, but on a typical day we destroy 100 plus FPV drones, enemy FPVs. That 100 plus, well, they were aimed somewhere, so probably another 100 plus reached their targets, and that is only those that we spot. So damn it, if they manage to launch 200 FPV drones per day on a small section of the front, what do you think?
Can you say in what area of drone warfare we are better, and in what area
we are better, of
they?
course, at bomber drones. We have developed this entire component, the entire structure, very well. The enemy simply doesn't have it, or it exists somewhere in isolated cases. They don't do it, and they don't really need to. They probably have more FPVs. If we are talking about good units, we have better EW. As for fixed-wing reconnaissance drones, if we lost as many as they lose per day, we would already be without eyes in the sky. So in this regard, they are much better too. I just know how many of my fixed-wing drones I launch per day and how many enemy drones we spot. Well, as for Mavics, frontline reconnaissance, surveillance, here it is even.
Can you just describe what this development is? This massive saturation of the sky with drones from all directions. What does this mean for the front line itself, for the gray zone, for the conditions of the infantrymen and everyone who is there?
There is no gray zone, not yet. First of all, of course, drones are a big advantage and a big disadvantage at the same time. We can observe the infantry, we can look in front of the infantry, but we can also inflict damage. And the enemy can also inflict damage. So if we were to say, let's take drones away from both sides and everyone can fight with the old Soviet methods, we probably wouldn't be able to resist them anyway. We don't have enough people. Well, we just don't have enough people physically. This is the first thing. But also we don't have enough artillery, we don't have enough shells. We shoot better, but we don't have enough shells. Therefore, drones are still a net positive for us, definitely more of a positive.
Looking at where this could develop further, I see that from all sides, both sides have begun to target, detect, and hit drone teams more. Enemy drone teams.
They are hunting our teams just as we are hunting them. The teams battle it out, then whoever survives will finish off the infantry, the enemy's or ours. So this is, of course, the enemy understands this and started doing it quite recently. In general, they were stupid for quite a long time. They were fighting for our front line. Now they have knocked out our infantry. And unfortunately, we simply have fewer people. They run out faster. Well, motivation drops, physical condition drops. It's a whole bunch of factors. Being on the front line for 50, 70, 90 days in a trench is, of course, very difficult.
And all this makes it very difficult for the infantrymen. But these conditions are starting to apply to drone operators too, because they also have to work in this zone of high risk.
Well, it's much easier for drone pilots. It has become much more dangerous than it was in 2023 and 2024. But it's much easier than for an infantryman. Everyone here knows that it's 100 times harder in the infantry. Even the most difficult situation a drone operator can find themselves in is much easier than the average conditions of an infantryman. This sets us apart from other units. We know what infantry is. Almost all of us came out of the infantry.
If we talk about the Ukrainian army now, as of 2025, what is the best and the worst thing about it now?
Well, the best. If we use our brains, then we think very effectively. Yes, if we are currently writing a new doctrine of war across the whole world. And the world would have taken 100 years to figure this out without us, because our war is now a training ground. We are writing a new doctrine. In general, everything will change if there is not even a world war, but an infantry war like ours. Things will change very quickly. And whichever country adopts what we have, it will at least definitely not lose, and perhaps even win that war. With proper placement and use of the assets and tools available. And the worst thing is, another good thing is that we allow the youth to grow quickly. Effective units scale up and allow the commanders to grow. Before the start of full-scale invasion, it was impossible to assess. It would have taken years. And the worst thing is that we're simply running out of people. Seriously running out. And we have, the war has been going on for 4 years. The full-scale war, that is. It's the 11th year of war in total. There is a lot of, how do I say this, infighting. Our society is eating itself up from within.
How exactly?
We are always looking for traitors. Before we had one enemy, but now we have one enemy and 1,000 other small enemies within ourselves, within the country. This is probably the worst. Some say it's not necessary. The war, others say, I'm tired. Well, I am also tired. And of all the large number of personnel that I have, I probably only have about 100 people who are not tired. Everyone else is tired, so what now? Should I send 3,000 people home and only leave 100 here?
Yes, everyone openly admits that the shortage of personnel, especially the shortage of infantry, is the biggest problem in the military right now. But is there any understanding of any way to solve this problem when battlefield mortality is only getting higher and higher?
We are trying to improve things. We are in fact improving, but progress is being made in some areas, while in others we are lagging behind. The line of drones was created to increase the survivability of infantry. Each of the commanders is trying to do this. We communicate every day. The line of drones communicates every day. Well, maybe in rare cases we can go a day or two without calling, but at least some of them communicate every day. With some it is 3 or 4 times a day. Each of the commanders tries to do something to improve the lives of the infantry. Maybe not everything always works out, but damn, we're busting our asses on this. We are trying to do this.
In a past interview with you, I remember back when you were a battalion commander, you said that the best approach to combat, to tactics, is the ratio of casualties, so that their losses would be more in proportion to ours. Does it feel like this philosophy is now being implemented throughout the Ukrainian military?
I won't speak for the entire army, but in our unit, of course, for us, it is in geometric progression. Unfortunately, we also have losses. But our ratio is 1 to 300. One of my fighters lost, unfortunately, to 300 enemies. But for infantry, I think 1 to 10, 1 to 15 is top-notch. Well, not the very best possible, but if it were the average in our country, it would be simply great. I think the war would be over by now.
Is this what is needed?
You have to kill 1 to 10. And that's it. Then everything will be fine.
And what does it take to achieve such a ratio?
More resources, more funding. Every drone costs some money. War is all about money. Everything needs to be translated into monetary terms. Everything. Then this will be the only consistent measure that can be calculated. This is our philosophy. I know how much it costs me per month. I won't name it. How much does a month of war in our unit costs for the country? We are calculating it all. This is a huge amount of money. What do we need? Resources. A more responsible attitude towards our work. Well, good judgment. If there is an opportunity to think, it is better to think, not to rush, to not make any rash decisions. Make good judgment before the operation and after the operation. To come together, to communicate, not to overestimate yourself just because you have 2 or 3 stars on your chest and you think you're the king of this land. It's not always like that. Sometimes 4 small stars are better than 2 big ones, like what I have.
If unnecessary losses are the worst things that can happen in the military, what is the biggest reason for unnecessary losses right now?
Well, look, I wouldn't say they're unnecessary. I would say we have losses that could have been prevented or minimized. That's the way I would say it. As I said, these are probably the same possible answers as to the previous question. We need to think. There are times when it just happens, where the enemy was 100 times more numerous, they were better prepared, better supplied. But it is still possible to calculate something. We used to live like this. I had casualties in an infantry unit in a bad month. It was 1 to 8, 1 to 7, and in a good month, 1 to 20, 1 to 25. On average, it was somewhere around 1 to 13, 1 to 14. Several people in the country told me that this is a good indicator. Everyone else said, more is possible, more is possible. But it can also be 1 to 1 or 1 to 2, just not in your favor. This can also happen.
If we connect this approach to the possibility of ending the war and achieving peace, because there was a certain period where everyone was waiting for something to happen from outside, that peace would simply be decided.
Look, to wait for peace, there are 2 situations. First, you either have to inflict such losses on the enemy that they will also want this peace. Or you need to give them something so he doesn't want to take more. We haven't achieved the former, and we're not ready for the second one. They can attack, but we don't want to hand over territory. No one wants that. We could hand over 2 regions, but no one wants that, of course. That's unacceptable. So if we can't do the latter, we have to do the former, to kill more. If we can destroy the enemy more, say they are recruiting 40,000 people per month, we need to kill 55 to 60,000 per month. As soon as we start killing that many, they will immediately have a negative balance like we do.
Surely this should be the main message to Ukraine's partners, right? We need to kill more.
Yes, we need to kill more Russians. Help more and we will kill more. This is the concept of the entire line of drones. The drone line was conceived by the top leadership. The primary task that they set for us was not to destroy the Loav's military vans. They make 20,000 of them per month. We need to kill the personnel. We need to increase the rate of killing the personnel. We are trying to do this. Our first category now is personnel. And then, I'll be honest, I read the first 4 categories in the report they give me, and then it's like, a dugout is a dugout, a car is a car. But personnel is the first priority.
Do you feel pleasure out of this?
Well, of course, when the number per day is 20 to 23, I'm very satisfied. Well, of course, better than one. There were days when it was only one. That means today is a bad day. And there are sometimes numbers of 20 plus. Well, of course, that's joy. I don't care how many of those Zhiguli we burned back then. They make 20,000 Zhiguli per month. But to become a soldier, it takes 9 months of pregnancy to give birth, to raise, feed and clothe him. And then he, the will join the army. Kill one now, it will be much better in 10 years.